Hello, and welcome to a workshop for mental health through expressive arts and yoga therapy. We're working our way right now through the book Yoga for the Creative Soul and focusing on chapter 8, which is the chapter that supports us in expressing through our emotional beings. And many of us find our enlightenment through devotion, through love. And today we're talking about how sometimes that loving approach sets us up for unpleasantness in relationships. And how can we be a bit more self protective? So we'll play with that today. Before we go any further, I wish to acknowledge with great thankfulness that I'm inhabiting the territorial lands of the Anishnawbe, the Haudenosaunee, and the neutral people directly adjacent to the One Dish with One Spoon wampum agreement that did bring peace to these lands on the lands adjacent to the Grand River, which were promised to the original peoples here, only 5% of which is in their possession, 95% of those lands in violation of the treaty. So I do encourage you, as part of your yoga practice, your practice of unity, awareness, love, enlightenment, to go to trc.ca, read the 94 action agreements, and continue the conversation and action of reconciling these injustices. We feel injustice deeply, those of us on this bhakti path, the path of emotion, the path of the heart, because as bhaktis, we have this soul gift, a gift of the soul, a gift of the divine, to understand the power of emotion. And where it goes awry is if we give too much credence to emotion, losing intention, losing purpose, losing dharma, losing self agency, losing our inner power as we're swept away by emotions. So as a person on the bhakti path is finding spiritual balance, self-realization, what's happening is the power of the emotion and the emotional awareness remains and is taken as information rather than pure instruction. So that might be the difference between, well, I love this person, so I'm going to give them everything they ask for. The difference between that and I love this person, I love all people, I am a part of all people. And so I'm going to balance this beloved's needs with my own needs and the needs of society at large. But my emotions are telling me love. So I'm going to listen to how can I love in all ways, just as an example, and going a little bit deeper with that example of how do we love with balance if we are so emotionally driven. There are others in the world. Um, we'll speak soon about the path of philosophy and education, the Gyan path. So for those people, they're the thinkers, or the Raja Yoga path, which you can find those Raja Yoga videos here on YouTube, that that those folks are following the path of meditation, following the path of ancient wisdom to enlightenment and self-realization. And so as balance on the whole, some of what might be happening is that people with really big hearts, people who are more emotionally attuned and who feel things more deeply, will sometimes be put in a position where they're feeling all the feelings, feel, feeling feeling our own feelings and feeling the feelings of our loved ones and feeling the feelings of people we see on the news and even people in sitcoms or books, that we just feel all the feelings. And what we know about a clear mind, what we know about enlightenment or connecting to the true self is that if we are not discerning in how we respond to and treat our emotions, then we will lose the spiritual thread. We can lose ourselves. And what also happens is that this makes us a target for a certain kind of person, maybe a very controlling person, someone who is power hungry, someone who wants their needs all to be met by someone outside of themselves. We could think of that narcissistic personality type, that someone who feels their feelings very deeply would be very attractive to a narcissistic type because it's easy to tap on emotions in a certain sequence and get a reliable output. Very easy to manipulate emotional people if that discernment is not at play. And narcissists, by definition, sociopaths, don't feel feelings in the same way as others. So here, let me find a very emotional person, and that person can hold my feelings so I don't have to. So what do we do about that? Well, we lean back into our yoga practice. So as I've been speaking about some uncomfortable things, I'd ask you just to check in with your breath right now. You don't need to change anything, but notice where in your body has your breath been breathing? Is it mostly up top, that stressful chest breath? Um, was it moving more quickly? Of course, as soon as we start to watch the breath goes, "Are you watching me?" And it slows down and it deepens just because we turned our attention there. So already your breath is deeper just because I said, "How's your breathing?" It's fine, it's deep. But give yourself a few more of those. Revel in those deeper breaths. And as you exhale, begin to follow your exhale out and away from your body. So let your inhale be and do whatever it wants. We are slowing, we are giving the breath more space. As you exhale, follow that out breath, out and away, out and away. The in breath happens, the out breath is tracked by your mind, by your energy sensors. And if you can't follow the breath away from your body, just ask yourself, if I could imagine this happening, if I could imagine where my out breath is going, what might that feel like? What might that look like? And recruit your imagination, trusting what your imagination tells you. And we'll take that awareness of the space that the out breath is filling and imagine that that out breath is one of the tools that makes our energy field distinct. So we'll sometimes talk about a semi-permeable energy egg. I think this was in last week's video, supporting ourselves and having our own space. And as we take this into an expressive practice of working with being an emotional type or working with our emotions when we're dealing with others who don't take responsibility for their actions and feelings, I'd ask you to find a piece of paper and imagine it half by half. And on one half of the paper, depict that selfish or abusive or narcissistic personality type. Maybe you're thinking of one specific person. That's certainly fine to treat this activity specifically. Or maybe you're just thinking in broad strokes, people that you know who have acted with exaggerated selfishness, emotionlessness, lack of regard. And still, you're noticing your breath, you're noticing the thoughts and feelings that are flowing through you as you depict this selfish or narcissistic personality type. You're just doing this on half the page. But because it's a narcissist, notice how this depiction starts to travel into the other part of the page. It travels off of its half. It leaks through, leaks past the boundary of that half page. And even then, even as you're depicting it, notice what happens in your mind. Notice what happens in your body. This narcissist is doing it again, pushing boundaries, disregarding, disrespecting, selfishly powering forward. And we all do have some narcissism in us. We all do become unconscious of the energy that we're bringing to a space. We let our selfishness take the lead sometimes. We disregard others' emotions for what we ourselves are going through. This in that intermittent way, it's part of being human. And where it turns into sheer narcissism is the lack of empathy, the inability to connect, the inability to see oneself and take responsibility. A narcissist test, and this is a little bit pop psychology, but the narcissist test that I will use in my interpersonal relationships sometimes is to say, you're a narcissist, which by the time I'm at that point, we've lost all constructive communication already, so I'm going for it. You're a narcissist. And how do we know if the person's a narcissist? Only a narcissist will say, no, I'm not. Not narcissists will say, why would you say that? Or maybe, or I'd never thought of it that way. But a narcissist will just flat out deny. Flat out deny. If it's in a heated argument, you're probably going to get a denial no matter what. But in a conversation, like, I think some of the issue with this dynamic is that you're a narcissist, or you have narcissistic tendencies. You don't have narcissistic tendencies. That was a narcissistic tendency. Not. So you've drawn that selfish person on half your page. They've tried to leak into the other half of your page. Guess what's going on the other half of the page? A depiction of you, a depiction of your emotional self. If you're watching this video and don't identify as a bhakti yogi, you have emotions, but they don't try to run the show. When we talk about these 5 paths, typically we're all a little bit of all 5 paths. Nobody is just all bhakti or all raja. We're a little bit of all these things. And so as you're depicting now yourself, you're depicting your emotional nature. You're depicting the times that you are feeling things deeply, that you are wishful, wistful, loving, sad, wounded, uplifted, and feeling things. And because that narcissist tried to leak onto your half of the page, maybe your response to that boundary imposition is also coming through in this expressive endeavor. Anytime we're doing expressive arts work, we're not trying to create an art project. There might be something in our heads that we're endeavoring to express to make things look a certain way on the outside like they do on the inside, and we'll be successful to varying degrees. It's okay what comes out. The point is the expression, not the end product. So here we are. We've acknowledged the importance of our emotional nature. There's information in emotions. There's motivation in emotions. And when we're able to hold our emotions lightly, when we're able to have perspective and say, like, what is this feeling telling me? What is this feeling asking for? If most of what comes through our emotional body is either an ask, I need this, please, or a tell, I need this now. Then our feelings are incredible tools for our enlightenment, for our personal growth journey, for our trauma recovery. So here now, you have a sheet of paper where you have depicted narcissists in general or specifically, and you have depicted yourself. The most satisfying, perhaps, part of this activity comes next, where we hold up that sheet of paper, and you can take a look at it at varying distances. And then holding either side of that sheet, whoosh, you give it a good tear and you rip off the narcissist side, or you set free your emotional self. Whoosh. And once you've done that, just feel, because we're feeling today, we're in the bhakti, we're letting the emotions be what they are. Feel how nice that felt. And you can put the half of the page that is your emotional self in a nice comfortable place somewhere. Maybe you have a cushion nearby, maybe you want to prop that person up so that you can still see each other. And with this narcissist one, if that was really satisfying to tear, there's whoosh, 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 there's a few more tear opportunities there. But you can just crumple it, or whatever you want to do. You can toss it aside, set it safely on fire later, or put it in the recycling bin. But that's done. And this is an activity so we used narcissists today, but this is an activity that you can use for addictive tendencies, your inner critic or other voices in your head, for stressors that are coming to you, anything that you would like to distill out a little bit from your psyche, from your being. You can do this activity again and again and again, drawing the unwanted on one side, drawing yourself, depicting yourself, and sometimes you'll even depict the impacts of that unwanted thing on the other side, and then very physically, through that tearing, create a boundary and let go of what does not serve you. Now, for the self that remained, just briefly, in some way through expression, indicate how this part of yourself is free and safe. So you might just reiterate the energy egg around this part of yourself. Maybe you'll draw little hearts around. Maybe tree roots are coming out of the feet. Perhaps an affirmation, a quote, a song lyric shows up there on the page. Maybe there's little birds flying around or rainbow ground. Express it however you want, but give that emotional self an affirmation of safety, of calm, of love and connection. Be sure to share your expressions into the Yoga for the Creative Soul Facebook group. If you know someone who would benefit from some expressive arts processing of difficult relationships, do share this video with them. And comment below what you thought, what was helpful, what would you like to see more of. And thank you so much for being here today, and thank you, yoga, for your wonderful gift. I look forward to seeing you live any old Wednesday at 12:30. We're here, and the link is in the description below. All the best.